Live. Oh my gosh, we are live with our Sean Kulkarni. That painting behind you is reflective of our times. Is that
And
a
how is it reflective of
Wagovi?
our times,
Is that a
Mr.
Wagovi? Is that a Wagovi ad? Or now we're doing like a GLP abstract art. Its GLPs
What?
are so popular they have reached modern art.
Well, do you think it's a pre or post?
I think it's postmodernism.
No, but is it pre or post Wegovy?
Well, this is like during because it takes a while. It's not a miracle.
It's not. Go okay.
Yeah.
So the history behind this painting was I used to actually backpack through the world every year for like 5 years, 7 years, something like that. I'd take a month to 2 months off. You remember me from then, and I'd backpack through a piece of the world.
You still do. What are you talking about?
I'm not rich like you. One day I will be like Dan Sapera.
Okay.
So I will just be like, you know what? I don't need to worry about this. Clippers, my majority stake in the Clippers is my minority interest. It doesn't even
All right, let's go with this picture, man, because we got to understand what this means.
It's when Musk actually comes and asks you for a loan.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
But when that was happening, I was Airbnb. I stayed at the house of this Italian artist, and this is actually was hanging in his house.
You did tell me this.
And this technically represents his wife, which I assume is that woman right there, and his unborn child who will never exist.
Oh my god! Well, now I feel like a total asshole.
Well,
so thank you. Honestly, just look like something for weight loss, and because I connect you to like our industry, not to like more beautiful things like this. I'm sorry. Now I feel like total ass. Should we start over?
This is... No. This needs to be live.
Live. Well, that's awesome, man. Like, and he just gave you that?
Hell no, I had to pay for it.
You bought it, okay.
I bought it. So I bought like 4 paintings from him.
But that reflects well on you, man, for buying that. Like after knowing that story.
Yeah, that's why I bought it, because I thought it was a deep story.
Wow, okay, man. No, that's cool.
To me, it represents dreams.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I'm not on a higher plane like you. Right? I just thought, is that IRB approved for like this obesity study? By the way, you should have seen some of these ads for some of our obesity studies that are in beta mode that are not approved yet. I can't share them. I cannot share them. I would get canceled.
Why?
They are bad, and they're not IRB approved yet.
Hey, Fatso, take some of our drug, because that's
no. So we have to like design ads before we send them to our IRB.
Sure.
And so sponsors like, yeah, just design your own. So we got some people to do it. I'm like, this is what we cannot send this. You're gonna get me canceled. They're obesity stuff, but that's why my mind is there. But that's a beautiful painting, man. The backstory makes it a lot better. Is that permanent now? Permanently fixture of your background? Or?
No, I'm gonna have to change this because I've gotten too many people going. I'm sorry. Are you sure you want to put that as your background? So I don't know how.
Well, do most people go like my route of like, is that a weight loss ad?
I don't know. I think a lot of people just go. There's a lot of skin on that. So I may have to change it.
I see. Well, we got a lot of stuff to talk about, man.
Yeah.
We got action-packed news, fraud pod. I'm bringing up China. You're bringing up all kinds of stuff like electronic signatures and let's go, man. You ready for the first one?
Well, before we do that, I wanted to propose. Oh, share my screen for a second.
You sure you want me to share your screen?
Yes.
Because I can see it. Okay.
So I asked our friend ChatGPT to propose a weight loss ad for a future product. So you were talking about how you had to come up with stuff?
Yeah.
So listen closely. Here's your aggressive, no-nonsense ad for a GLP-1 product. Shred the excuses, shred the weight. Tired of half measures. Is this what your ad looked like? That's my question.
No, it was the image alone was. I can't even describe it. I don't want to, but it was horrible, man.
Give me 5 options for images. you would use?
They won't do it. They won't do it. I got blocked the other day from this
Oh, I
for
know. All the time. You
for
just
the
didn't.
ads.
Okay, one is shadow change with the silhouette emerging. That's pretty good.
Yeah, but when you add in
Wouldn't use
diversity, it takes it to a whole nother level.
now add a DEI component to it.
Yeah.
To version.
But the text is whatever, but when the image, I had to tell them like this, we can never run with this.
Ooh, okay. Oh,
Grok is way better, by the way. Grok version 2. It's almost catching up.
almost.
Yeah.
So why would I pay for almost?
It depends for what it's for, right? ChatGPT, I think, is still better general use case, like overall. Like you want just like something that's going to work for almost everything. Grok is very good for research because it uses X as its data for everything.
Right.
And it's got tons of link. You don't even have to ask it. So I did a beta test. I pay for both.
Right.
And I wanted it to research something about the next topic we're talking about, actually. And ChatGPT did it. No references. None. I said, where are your references? It says, sorry, I didn't actually look at references. Do you want me to? And then it pulled it up and kind of changed the article. Grok did it from the beginning. I didn't need to prompt it. Here's 30 references, boom, boom, boom. And you could see it thinking and then generate. So I think from a research perspective, like researching something,
but
Grok is already better.
You can actually do that depending on which ChatGPT you use. Or multiple.
No, I know. I have the paid model. I use the most advanced one we have.
No, I get that. Most of us use the 4.0.
Yeah.
The 0.1 actually uses advanced reasoning.
Advanced reasoning, yeah.
Is that the one you use? Okay.
I used it, but it didn't do it. It went back to because that takes a lot of compute. So unless it sees that it needs to, it won't. So Grok does it. I don't know, but
I don't know if I need that though. I don't always need everything to be cited.
I don't think you do either. I'm hoping Grok comes through because I think they're better philosophically than OpenAI.
Why?
Have you followed the Sam Altman saga?
I have. But it goes both ways. Every salvo goes both ways.
I mean, they just don't want to work for him. And then they come back and
Sam Altman has major issues. I don't know if I agree with his perspective.
Yeah.
But I don't think I agree with anyone's perspective 100%. So,
and I'm not sure 5 years from now, OpenAI is like, I think they're going to be a pioneer. I don't think they're going to be relevant.
Really?
5 years from now.
I'm curious. What do people think? I think OpenAI 5 years from now will still be very, very relevant.
No, I think it'll be Google, Meta, and X.
I don't think Google will make it in multiple ways. I own Google stock just to be
clear. Omni or whatever it's called is actually pretty decent too.
Really?
One, yeah, or Gemini, whatever it's called.
Gemini.
After they fixed that wokeism stuff, like it actually got better.
I still don't like it. I keep trying, and it's like every time I use it, I go. The one I'm curious about I haven't used is Claude.
Yeah, I haven't used it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be pretty good. It's supposed to be as good as, if not better, in ways.
It's the early days, man. But like your story is actually your first one.
My first one is this one.
Because that ties into the second, and then there's an order to this, guys. We prepare so hard for these shows. It's like, I mean, we should quit our day jobs.
Yeah, I think we spent like maybe 7 minutes on this. Like, it's crazy how much time we spent preparing for this podcast.
Oh, for me, it's like 3 to 7 seconds, maybe.
You saw it. You read part of the title, and you were good with it.
No, sometimes you just find it during the show.
So we are talking. The FDA just released a guidance. This was in January 2025, like in the last couple of days. Considerations for the use of artificial intelligence to support regulatory decision making. And let's be clear, I haven't read the guidance, so I'm going to now.
Shout out to Ashley Margot, by the way. Amazing. If Ashley's on something, you guys need to follow.
If she's on something, absolutely. And she should share.
Yeah.
If she's on something.
Yeah.
Ashley, what do you want?
She's on ChatGPT and Sora, which I don't even know what that is.
I don't think that's what we were talking about.
Oh.
Ayahuasca, that's what I keep hearing about.
Psilocybin.
Is it? I don't think it's the same thing.
Ayahuasca is DMT. Psilocybin's like more mild.
You know a lot about this stuff. I do not.
A little too much. What up, Ashley?
That's good. I'll go back to it. So, anyways,
MC.
what they are saying is they are looking at AI. And if you're going to use AI, you need to define all of this, define the model, define the data, define this thing, and then document the results from a credibility assessment plan. I'm going to have to look up what a credibility assessment plan is. What is the result of a credibility assessment plan? Step 6 involves documented. Let's see what the. So here is how you create a. This is interesting. How the test data has been collected. Describe how data independence was achieved.
By the way, Ashley says Sora is the new media and video creations, which I gotta get on.
I tried Sora. In fact, I used it today for one of the videos I'm creating. It's interesting. I'm not sure. I don't know if you. Oh, here I'll show you. Who's the guy who does Medea? The billionaire.
Tyler Perry.
Tyler Perry and Sora. This is what he said.
Tyler Perry puts $800 million studio expansion on hold after seeing OpenAI's Sora. Jobs are going to be lost.
Yeah.
Every industry is bringing this up. Like,
yeah. I think right now, if you like disruption, this is the generation of disruption.
Well, everyone says they like disruption until it disrupts them.
Exactly right. You're right. Because if you are in the food industry, Ozempic has disrupted you. If you are in the weight loss industry, Ozempic. So if you're a gym industry.
And if you're in the hold on, let's follow this thread. If you're in the grifting and political fraud industry, MAGA and Maha has disrupted you.
You had to go there.
I had to go there. I had to go there. You made it easy, man. You know in volleyball they do the volleys and then
exactly.
You gave me like a perfect one, man.
I seem to be doing a lot of that today for you because you told me that you already have a thing for this next thing.
I like to dunk on corruption. I don't know about everyone else, but I think there's no place in our industry for corruption.
Well, I will say this. I'm going to claim it, and I'm going to tell you that I'm just bullshitting you. But so I use Sora today. There's a famous Indian actor called Amitabh Bachchan, like probably one of the most famous actors there is.
Wow.
But Sora, I told it create a video of a here. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Yeah, it just says Sora is the new media and video creations. There are only specific types on artistic media that work with Sora, not all versions. And we're looking at, for those listening, we're looking at marshmallows or s'mores. That's the first thing I saw.
I'm trying to pull up my videos that I just created for me.
We got Gladiator.
I said create a video of a pharmacist who looks like Amitabh Bachchan. And it just created like a random dude. So to Sora, all brown people look the same.
So is that the Indian George Clooney kind of?
No. This is Amitabh Bachchan.
No, I know, but is he like the equivalent of like?
Oh, bigger than that, way bigger than that.
Bigger. So like the Indian De Niro or Pacino or?
No, he would be De Niro meets Pacino meets.
Trump.
Trump meet like it's like
wow.
The greatest thing that ever happened.
Wow, 82. Wow.
Yeah. So he used like in the 70s. He was really really big.
Okay.
But
you gotta watch the movies, man.
I tend to enjoy them.
I love some Bollywood stuff.
Do you really?
No, I actually watch. I don't know the names anymore, but
I don't know you can type in storyboard. I've not tried that.
Yeah, Ashley says you can type in storyboard and it creates the media. But let's get to your story because like we have so much. Like
we have a lot, but I don't think we're gonna be able to cover all.
I know we could scare the shit out of people. If you're watching and listening, you're at risk of losing your job. Period. Me and Darshan too. We're sitting here.
Exactly right. Create a video of a pharmacist preparing medication for a clinical trial and delivering it to a patient who receives it.
Now, will this put audio in it too, or no?
No, it's mostly video.
Yeah, it's no use. It's no use for a YouTuber.
Very happy while the nurse hangs the IV bag.
Create a video of a coordinator handing $100 to a patient.
Dude, just oh my god.
The studies pay $100 a visit now. What? IRB's approved.
I'm gonna let this work in the background while it's creating
It's gonna
stuff.
use up all your compute. If you see Darshan lagging, you know why.
Well, it shouldn't work on my desktop. It should be working remotely, anyways.
I don't know. Let's see. If we have something to blame.
So this was, I think, the big thing to take away from this guidance that I'm looking at is, well, that's really interesting. It's creating the video. Just so you guys know,
Yeah,
I have never seen. Ashley told me to do this, but it's creating 4 separate streams here.
If you're listening, this is Sora is creating a storyboard for Darshan's idea.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. First, you agree with that philosophy? First, you have emotions, then you have drawings, then you have ideas.
I think that's a good way to think about it. I feel like it's emotions, idea, then drawing. I wouldn't go emotion, drawing, then idea.
Do you think kids have? Yeah, I guess so. Kids would have ideas before the drawing, or they just start freestyling?
I think kids have ideas before the drawing because you don't just freestyle. You still need to know what.
I'm about to observe very closely very soon, so I'll report back. We're gonna do some observational studies.
Oh my god, I have so many ideas. Just a second.
Like I have super interesting stuff. Like this is like we've talked about Biosecure Act and things, and like there's a lot today, man. I don't think we're ever done with our topics.
No, I'm always gonna have more because we're always doing something wrong. I love it.
And there's always something fraudulent going on.
Exactly right. This is
like
not
I'm sure what you did with Sora with your lawyer cap on.
Yep.
Especially your litigator cap. There's already like several violations that are multi-million-dollar lawsuits.
Ooh.
No?
Ooh. Hold on.
What's so a nurse is smiling with an IV drip on a black dude.
Why did the black part have to come up at all?
I'm like describing it.
Okay, so
is that like a scene out of Get Out? And then on the other side, you have a black nurse because you put DEI. It's gonna give you. Then now you have a Filipino guy.
Filipino guy? Which you think that's a Filipino guy? Oh, I'm confused. Who's the Filipino guy?
The beginning, the nurse. No, the male.
This person?
This is cool, but like, what can you actually do with this? Like, this is like 1 second of a video.
Well, 5 seconds, really.
Yeah, you're gonna sit here all day and make like a 2-minute video where you get no voice, no audio. What are you gonna do?
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
Ashley, if you're using this, you're wasting time. What are you doing? What are we actually gonna produce from this thing?
Where is my return on investment?
Yeah, what's going on? Like, I have to still put the voice over this? It's gonna be Comedy Central, man. You need to be extremely specific. All the little details. You'll be seeing some for SOS soon. Hey, she's the human AI. I don't know. I'm messing with Ashley. Ashley will not be replaced by AI anytime soon. Huh?
She's the human artificial intelligence?
She's the human AI. She's like one of the last people on Earth to be replaced by AI. There's people like Ashley that don't get replaced. Like the machines even will bow to her.
Queen Ashley.
Like you see in Matrix when all the bullets come, and he goes like,
"Oh
this,
yeah, oh yeah,"
and he goes like this. That's Ashley with the AI. AI coming for her job. She's like, nope. Boom.
You know what? Here's my problem with what you just said, which means she still has to do a job in a world where there's AI.
Well, don't we all? I think we all will continue. I think we're all doing jobs. We're doing jobs.
Oh, I am not part of that system.
You sound like the farmers when the Industrial Revolution came out. Like, where's everyone gonna work? We're gonna have work.
Oh no, I'm saying let it do the work. I just want to own the machines that do the work.
Well, not everyone becomes the owner. That's the thing, and that's another topic of like socialism's rebirth. But let's not go there, man.
So going back to what we were talking about, the FDA saying you can use AI, but you need to have a system to evaluate that, and they're calling it a critical assessment plan. So make sure you have that. And there are processes that you need to look at to have that critical assessment plan.
And this
Assuming
is
you
for
have it,
what again? For
for you to use it, essentially a fully trained model to
okay.
assess the adequacy of the model performance for the intended COU. So what is a COU?
And this is FDA guidance for those listening.
Yep. COU. I'm trying to find what the word COU means.
Continuing, I just
Using
saw it. I
no,
just
it's
saw it.
not near the top. No, if they're using it here, it has to be above that because you have
Yeah.
to define the term before you use it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Otherwise they get sued, no?
no.
Oh.
Here we go. Context of use.
Ah. Another acronym for everyone to get to know.
Exactly right. But
Context of use. Everyone
so
should know their COUs. I'm gonna drop that one later today in a Zoom.
FDA approved. So this is the first piece on if you're going to use AI, there are ways to do it. They have some recommendations on how you go about doing it. Um, but you need to know the COU and you need to have a critical assessment plan.
Mm-hmm.
And but using this, you actually had an offshoot of this. So what's your offshoot?
Well, yeah, but if the offshoot makes more sense with the title, so just to like recalibrate people, if we go all the way up, yeah, just doing a little recalibration for the audience. Considering the use of artificial intelligence to support regulatory decision making for drug and biological products, because Darshan is a perfect segue, right? I'm
Okay.
gonna share my screen.
Share your screen.
I haven't done this in a while because I've been relying on you, but let me do it. Share screen. Doctor Due Diligence. I'm writing an article on this.
Oh yeah.
All right. Can you see my
Ooh,
screen?
I can.
Okay. So Doctor Due Diligence, how we got here. Policy is Destiny American Biotech White Paper. Now, this is a must follow account, and he's very underrated. He only has like 4,000 followers, right? He's a biotech insider. He's like, this guy, he's really cool. I'm going to get him on the show.
Okay.
Um, America used to be the world's largest producer of steel. Steel was a cyclical industry, hirings, layoffs, until it wasn't. Layoff, shuttering, bankrupt. Pittsburgh is no longer an economic powerhouse. Okay.
Yep.
Why?
Bethlehem gone. Yep.
Yeah. Why? Because we saw other countries subsidize steel as national priority for themselves via
Yep.
policy. And then internal push by McKinsey type consultants with
Mm-hmm.
short term thinking at the cost of long term growth. This took decades, but what was once unimaginable became a reality. US Steel is no longer relevant. We killed the golden goose via bad policy, right? That's the thesis. Now
That's it.
he's saying biotech is also following the same path.
How so?
Well, he makes a I mean, it's long as shit, but we're gonna go through some because I actually want your take on this.
Okay.
When I read this, I was thinking Darshan, like, what would Jesus do? What would Darshan do? WWDD. What would Darshan
WWT.
do?
Fair
Yeah,
enough. That's
and I know Darshan would like slice through this with like critical thinking and reasoning,
I'm gonna have to pull this up now,
like
Doctor.
a good adjunct professor should. No, are you adjunct? You're like,
I am adjunct. I am adjunct.
all right.
Uh,
Let's go back, right? Because it gets into things we've discussed already on the show, like Biosecure Act and things like that. But those are rebellions to what's already happening, right?
okay, keep going.
So we have two paths in front of us, and I love that he used philosophy here: virtue or vice. Virtue
Okay.
is we change our ways and fight for a U.S.-led future, or vice, we take short-term profits and secede to China, taking over biotech by hollowing out our industrial core. For sure, Wuxi come up here. I'm just gonna save you the time. It came up. But
Yep.
here's how it started, according to Dr. Due Diligence. Kissinger and Nixon in the 70s courted the CCP to move away from Russia, from the USSR. During the Cold War, we sent scientists, took a huge amount of Chinese students to train there. Large
Mm-hmm.
scale intergovernmental technology educational transfer happened, led to China's rapid modernization, specifically in biotech. And since this time, the People's Republic of China has had a biotech industry and biological warfare arm of the People's Liberation Army and Chinese Defense Ministry. So it goes further. Like in the 90s, Larry Summers, basically a poster child for short-term MBA McKinsey type, convinced Clinton to push for China to receive full entry into the World Trade Organization, which happened in 2001. Around the same time, Madeleine Albright became very concerned because it was discovered China was selling dual use potential biologic weapon to Iran. All right, then it goes to 2015. China has large scale biologics weapon. Then, of course, in 2019, which was once a conspiracy, but now it's fact, Wuhan Institute of Virology was studying gain of function on coronavirus. This escaped from the lab somehow and led to the largest pandemic in 101 years, which in 2023, US ends funding for China's Wuhan Institute of Virology. So they got caught with their pants down in a way. Currently, U.S. taxpayers fund a large amount of the world's basic science and pharmaceutical science via university grant programs. He brings up the active pharmaceutical ingredients. China controls 90% or more
Hmm.
of active pharmaceutical ingredients for antibiotics sold in the U.S.
Sure.
They, I want to do a deep dive with Grok on the top 10 U.S. pharma companies and what they outsource to China as far as their percentage of APIs, because I do not think all US pharma are built the same from the top 10. I think they operate very differently, but I don't want to name names right now because
I have a comment on that, but I'm waiting for that. So keep going.
okay, yeah, there's this thing is loaded. Like it gets to PBMs too.
I don't
It
think he
gets in
fully understands what he's talking about. As part of my problem.
who?
This guy.
Okay,
I'll
we'll
give you an
get to
example. I'll give you an example.
okay.
Generally speaking,
Yeah.
everyone knows that China is really good at knowledge. Like they're not. The idea of plagiarism is a huge issue in the U.S. and Western countries. In Eastern countries, this idea that knowledge belongs to someone is not as tied down.
Right, it belongs to the state ultimately.
Not the state. It's more like it's knowledge, like it should be shared. So the idea that China isn't really ashamed of saying, oh, we're just going to take data from the US. You discovered it. Why the hell are you going to be the one to own it? In our country, we need it. We're just going to use it.
Right.
That's the general thought process. And I'm not saying that's true or anything like that. I'm just saying that's a perspective. It's a valid perspective.
Yeah, that's how they operate.
Right. So, and I'll say that's true for India as well. Overall, that's how that concept operates.
In our perspective, that's like against our virtues, right?
Correct.
But
Correct.
in China, the state decides what's virtuous and what's not, and that's not doesn't come
Yeah.
into the equation.
Correct. And you see that with, for example, AI and stuff. And the Chinese will go, yeah, you guys have technology. We use it. I don't understand what the problem is. You guys think it's a huge issue. We don't really think it's a huge issue. We'll pretend we think it's a huge issue because we want to do more business with you.
Right.
But overall, in the larger scheme of things, it doesn't matter. The reason I say that is so drug companies in the US are not taking the most innovative products and saying, oh, make it there. It's the generic drugs.
But it's coming up. No, that comes next in the
Okay,
article.
go ahead.
It comes next. Yeah, he brings that up because the biotech. This is the crux of the article. Is the
Okay.
biotech industry is that not pharma. Pharma's already sold their soul according to him, right?
Okay.
He's saying now it's happening to biotech.
Go on.
So let me share.
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Can you see? Okay.
I can't
Okay.
read. It's too small to read. But yeah.
I'm sorry, man. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry for the audience. So they get into like this is obviously a national threat, national security threat when you're outsourcing basically your entire like active pharmaceutical ingredients to China.
Great.
This came up a little bit during COVID, but it didn't last that long. Like as far as the anticoagulants and antibiotics and things like that.
Sure.
Um, Now the role of the Chinese government is to absolutely push for maximum amount of resources behind key areas they find of importance, right? So biotech is front and center, and there's a lot of U.S. companies to access the Chinese market. While it's not spoken, essentially the way to access the Chinese market and sell drugs is to partner with a Chinese company and buy a portion or license your IP to the Chinese company to sell in the Asia Pacific region. Even
Sure.
previously established pharma are having to go this route for all or part of their pipeline collaborations. The
In the past, yeah.
expertise. Hmm?
Yeah, in the past, I agree. I think that's changing as we speak. But keep going.
Well, hopefully, the expertise China has gained as a result of intentional and strategic focus on getting both experience sending students to U.S. programs, U.S. government and consultant assistance, and sometimes just straight stealing IP, like you said, via their subsidized CDMOs like Wuxi,
Right.
is unprecedented. That led to the Biosecure Act,
Yep.
foreign direct investment. Make no mistake, it doesn't matter that the US developed biotech. What matters is that in the 10 years between policy changes and regulations, China is now starting to develop their biotech industry to rival the US
Right.
while using mainly US pharma money and US venture capital. The truth is that pharma outsourced the majority of R&D to American biotech since the 90s. We've said on this show all the innovation comes in this country
Sure.
from biotech. Now, due to cost, speed, and skill, a majority are outsourcing to China.
Mhm.
This is the choice of vice, short-term gains. In 2024 alone, Merck, cough cough, signed deals of up to 5.3 billion with Shanghai-based biotechs. They're one of the many pharma companies that spent their money in China with revenue largely from American citizens and taxpayers. That money is leaving the biotech ecosystem, American workers, and going to China, strengthening the Chinese biotech system. Now he's saying policy is the solution. So similar to what they did with the quantum computing AI and semiconductors, Executive Order 14083, a similar executive order restricting investment overseas in certain countries and restricting use of CDMOs would be a great first step, according to Dr. Due Diligence. Senate passing the Biosecure Act, but this is where it gets interesting. The act got neutered by Brad Wenstrup on his way out of Congress and gave a ridiculous amount of time to divest, but a good law is better than no law. And Wuxi has planned to divest its American sites, but there has been considerable lobbying against the Biosecure Act, which was, by the way, bipartisan. So by pharma of all people. The lobbying against the Biosecure Act is by pharma. It would increase costs, but this is why policy must place security above American domestic manufacturing chain over profits. Wuxi Push CEO Rachel King of Bio, the big conference. Do you go to Bio anymore?
No, I can't afford bio. I can't afford pharma. It's too expensive.
Yeah, we're not pharma lobbyists, but Wuxi Push CEO Rachel King of Bio to come out against it, and now she's no longer CEO. So I'm wondering, this is like he wants to end PBMs. We've talked about pharmacy benefit managers on here before. The fact that Americans are subsidizing drug costs. Basically, he gets into that whole thing. Speed up FDA review. This is where it relates to your last guidance. New drug applications and biologic license applications take 10 months. I know this is labor intensive. Specifically, a dedicated and weighted LLM, learned language model, would be able to hopefully help and aid the FDA. And this was kind of related to
Yeah.
your last guidance that
Very
you had.
clear. He has no idea what he's talking about.
Sure,
That's
but
not how this works. But keep going.
let's break it down. But the Inflation Reduction Act gives 13 years of exclusivity for biologics, which are more expensive to manufacture. Small molecules, which are cheaper and are given 9 years. This will lead. This is the pill penalty, right?
Wait,
If I'm not mistaken.
9 years? Where's he getting 9 years from?
That's what he's saying. Small molecules, which are cheaper to
Not
manufacture, are given 9 years. This will lead to long-term increased medical costs. There is zero reason for a pill penalty. This comes from the Inflation Reduction Act, supposedly.
sure.
Um,
It doesn't. He's wrong. But moving on.
and drug pricing of national origin taxes. Pharma has used tax shelters a lot in Europe to lower their federal taxes to zero. This is essentially taxing Americans twice as they pay the most for drugs,
Sure.
then do not recoup any of that on the back end. J&J is famous for this. Despite 46 billion in sales, J&J pays no US taxes. Legislation must close this loophole. Not just pharma, tech is also famous for this, like Apple in Ireland. Congress should act on this because it would be wildly popular. And what will the company do? The American market's still the American market. And next is drug pricing of national origin. I won't make the argument for lowest drug pricing because that would destroy the sector, but American markets are valuable. The sending of money to overseas farm like Novo Nordisk, who has multiple times acted in their own financial interest over American safety and lives, would stop if we forced headquarters to be US based because there's zero chance the Danish government would pay American prices for drugs. To put how insane it is, Americans are getting gouged, not just by Novo. Denmark's GDP grew by 3% when it would have shrank without American money going overseas. And this is what Americans pay for Ozempic versus other countries. Germany $59, France 71, Canada 155, US 969. It's even worse for Wegovy. And then his cases, we must choose virtue and saving biotech. Save our biotechs. Maybe another conference. Save our small sponsors. What do you think about all this? Because I found it super interesting. You don't see these kind of conversations. First of
I
all,
don't think I feel like it reminds me of a agenda-driven conversation. I don't have a problem with him having the opinions he has.
hmm,
I just don't think they're as informed as he thinks they are. There are factual inaccuracies, if you will. There are idea inaccuracies. Like he'll take a big idea and apply it to a specific situation where it probably wouldn't apply. He'll take a small idea and apply it to a big situation where it wouldn't apply. And like for example, he talks about we want to reduce drug prices. So what we should do is we should go after the PBMs. Absolutely true. That's not a bad thing to do. However, at the same time, he's saying we should bring drugs back out of China, where things might get manufactured. And you go, well, the effect of that would then be increasing drug prices. So which one do you want?
right.
Um, you've got
APIs, right? Active pharmaceutical ingredients.
API would absolutely have
Well,
to be
they were trying to use India for that as well.
sure. And but my point being, it doesn't matter where you do it.
Yeah,
At some point, it would leave the U.S. But he's saying bring it all back to the U.S. And I'm not saying it's a bad idea. If you bring it back to the U.S., that's great, but recognize there's a price, there's a cost that goes along with it. And let's say we go ahead and do that anyways. Okay, so are we saying only U.S. and we're saying they can't sell outside the U.S. because that means you're not going to get the Ozempics of the world because the Danes would say, well, okay, we'll just make it for Europe and we're fine with the prices.
but then we got Lilly here, so we're
We
good.
got Lilly here, sure. But are we now saying that they can't share data either? Because
Right.
scientists work off of each other as well. Like,
Right.
what level are we stopping it at? It's like
Well, in China, they're stealing the IP, so it doesn't matter sharing.
sure, but he's not. You're not stopping the people who are stealing, anyways, right? So they're
Right.
still going to steal.
Right.
And again, this goes back to what I think is the RFK problem, which is, or even the Trump problem, quite honestly. This idea that there is a path forward, but are you looking at the repercussions? It's not like everything else stays the same because you change the path. Everyone else will respond. Have you thought through the next 2, 3, 4 chess moves when you create an impact? So, for example, you say you say that I'm not going to give vaccine. I can totally respect that. If no one else changes and you're the only one who doesn't give vaccines, probably nothing changes. On the other hand, if you don't give it and you have a voice going out 35,000 people, and now people go, I'm not going to give vaccines. And then another, their friend circle says, now you go get rid of that herd immunity, and now you go, vaccines don't work. Well, they did, and now you're saying they don't work. And there are people who actually had problems. McConnell, he's like, I literally had polio. And we're going to say, it's not going to work anymore because you've lost the herd immunity. Fine. Recognize that there are downstream implications of every choice we make. And some of them we can think about, some of them we haven't thought about. And I think in this case, what he's showing is he's thought through, let's do this, and this, assuming that no one else changes anything else just because, like the tariffs thing. I think overall as tariffs, it sounds like a great concept, right? Let's make everyone pay tariffs and we will be able to eliminate the income tax. Sounds great as a concept. But are we really saying that no one else is going to change anything else?
But we still should change something because it's not fair that Americans are paying First of all, they're fronting the bill for the innovation, and then they're paying the
So
highest drug prices
let's
on the
address
back.
that. Let's address that. So I'm actually agreeing with you that Americans pay an obscene amount of money for their drugs. So let's be very, very clear about that.
Is it fair to say subsidizing for the rest of the world?
I would even argue that's probably true, but not in the way you think.
Sure.
And I'll tell you what I mean by that. The price you quoted, Ozempic, I think it was $59 in France or something, and like
Something like that, and then like almost 1,000 in the U.S.
it's about 1,500 in the U.S. But here's what the price actually is. The thought process is the following: the way PBMs work is they will say, look, we have employer-based plans, right? So if you have employer-based plans, the employer is saying, I'm going to hire someone to manage my drug costs for me because they can get out of control. So the PBM will come in and say, no problem, we'll do that for you. We'll get you discounts. We'll get you massive discounts because we have numbers behind us. We have volume. So we can negotiate discounts that you simply couldn't. That's fair. So they will go to drug company A and say, and this is just one of many, many strategies that are used. They'll go to drug company A and say, you know what? How much does your drug cost? My drug costs, I need to make $100 for this drug and I'll be happy. Okay. How about you charge $1,000 and then give me a 90% discount? And no one else, like all insurance companies are going to negotiate this. So the vast, vast, vast majority of people will always get it for $100. That price is probably in line with what France was going to pay anyways, and what Germany was going to pay anyways. But what they get to look like, the PBMs get to look like, is that they actually saved a bunch of money for the employer. It's literally a shell game to show that we're just saving you a bunch of money. No one's realistically expecting you to pay the $1,000, except for the people who actually land up having to pay cash.
Which is an increasing number.
It's actually not as big as you think it is. However, the fact
me and you.
No, let's be clear. I'm not advocating for this. I think it's a shell game. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a made up scenario and it's bullshit. Excuse my language, it's bullshit.
Right.
But the fact is that what we're kind of as patients, we're coming out and we're saying we want it both ways. We want the biggest discounts, and we want the lowest prices. There's a very, very, very simple way to drop all drug prices tomorrow. Every single pension plan in the country goes out and says, we own the majority of your stock. We own a significant portion of your stock, drug companies. We want a board seat, and we want you to cap drug prices. Very simple. If you're in the board,
wait, hold on. Let's pause. What do you think that does to investment in R&D?
Suddenly stops, and that's my point. My point is there will be repercussions by doing that. Suddenly,
so you have no new treatments, basically.
We'll have fewer new treatments.
Or they're all coming from China at that point.
Are they coming from China? Are they coming from Denmark?
India,
whatever. Yeah. But my point being, these companies will say that, okay, you don't want us to invent, you want us to keep the cost low, we can absolutely do that. In exchange, we want you to keep the cost low. You will get lower shareholder returns. So while we're all complaining about high drug prices, and they are high, let's be clear, they're incredibly high, unnecessarily high. The fact is the beneficiaries of those same drug prices are patients. And no one wants to think through that implication. CVS announced yesterday, I want to say, that they're now moving towards a cost plus model, which is what Mark Cuban's been talking about.
Yeah.
The idea that I'll tell you what the cost of the drug is, then I will add on a percentage and a dispensing fee, and that's the cost of the drug.
If given enough time, that gets out of hand too. We've seen in other industries, cost plus.
Absolutely. Now, add on to the fact that what cost? Are we talking wholesale? Are we talking sales price?
Right.
There are a million.
And then what's the plus? Because if everyone gives you the same plus, you're just elevating that new normal, right?
Correct. But that's the kind of conversation that starts happening. So none of these systems are foolproof.
But why does it work why did the other countries pay like $100, $90?
Because they say there are different ways different countries address it. For example, NICE in the UK comes out and says, we're going to use pharmacoeconomic measures. You've got to, and there's an entire department that handles these kinds of questions. I'm not a pharmacoeconomics expert, but there are different ways to analyze this. So a really simple way to look at it is my drug costs are out of control, is what everyone's saying right now, right? Yes, your drug costs are out of control because everyone's getting it. However, what you're not looking at is, are as many people now going to the hospital anymore because suddenly they don't have sleep apnea. Suddenly they don't have weight loss related issues. Suddenly they don't have diabetes in the same way. So
And
what about those
there's
healthcare
some
costs that dropped?
yeah, there's some optimism around what these GLP-1s. I mean, it's fitting we started the show talking about GLP-1s because of the art you had, but I mean, that is the bull case for
Yeah,
GLPs.
absolutely. And that's my point. I think that it's very, very one-sided. You've got to consider the big implications. And I'm not saying one's right or the other is right, but it's one perspective.
Right. But so what else do you have with his article or his white paper that you disagree?
I think, for example, he taught. Maybe I missed the part
Because
where
the PBMs, you don't disagree. You're just saying there's no way we can really fix it.
no, there are ways to fix it. You basically say that with all of this can be fixed, but it's got to be a global solution. It can't be we're going to address one industry at a time.
Or is it possible to be an America first solution and
Well, I don't
the
know what that
global?
means.
Well, that's what he's advocating for. Is like, well, the rest of the world depends on our market.
But
Anyways, we're the
they
biggest
don't
market.
depend on it the way we think it does. They depend on our market
Well,
for
like Ozempic, I'm pretty sure U.S. is like the biggest user of Ozempic. Like in
no,
the
it's
case of
it's
Novo,
not the biggest user. It's just the biggest market
biggest
for
market. Yeah, yeah.
sure. So if but that's true. However, tomorrow, if we just say we're not going to make the next Ozempic, does that mean drug discovery is going to stop? Do you think that, like doctors, let's take a really simple case. If we say our healthcare costs have to drop overall, right, and we want the management of healthcare to be a much cheaper thing, and we will say, oh, doctors simply won't go into medicine anymore. You won't get the best and the brightest and blah 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 blah. Right? That would be the following argument that goes along with it. Just like in the drug industry, if you drop the cost of drugs, no one's going to get into the drug industry. You're not going to get the smartest, best out there pursuing these things because the risk is too high. Except Europe's already done that. Europe pays doctors an obscenely bad salary. But they do it, and there's an entire world that exists outside the US where that happens. And they exist fine. They just don't see
Okay.
it. Yeah.
What about the tax shelters and like the example of J&J, 46 billion in sales in the U.S. but pays no U.S. tax because.
So I call bullshit on that, first of all.
Okay.
That's like saying J&J, first of all, I don't even know what J&J means in this context. Because
Johnson and Johnson. It's
no,
the stock symbol.
I know what Johnson and
Oh,
Johnson.
okay.
What I meant was J&J is a conglomerate of companies. It's
Sure.
like 50 companies. So
Sure.
which company are you actually talking about? Now
No,
I
he's
don't.
talking about a corporate level.
They're all corporate level. So are we looking at the individual company? Maybe the individual company is paying all the taxes. I don't know if that's true or not. But
So you're saying this could be a case of how to lie with statistics.
correct, exactly right.
But he put they pay no U.S. taxes.
And I call bullshit on that. There's no way to not pay you. It reminds me of, you know what rich people do? Rich people pay no taxes. Except when Elon Musk came out and said, I paid X billions in taxes.
Right.
You just think I pay no taxes because that's what the politicians want you to hear. The truth is I'm paying billions. It's just a different way you're taxing me.
So the thread breaks it down more. He said the U.S. has the most generous to the pharmaceutical company pricing in the world. You might think the company would make a substantial sum off of its 46 billion in U.S. sales, but it doesn't. In 23, this is for J&J. Sure. All of its profit was booked abroad, 17 billion in foreign profit.
Wait, hold on. Stop right there. So if you're saying the profit was booked abroad, how did that work?
A U.S. loss of 2 billion.
Right. My point is, if we're saying that the U.S. is the majority of sales, how are you getting most of the profit abroad?
Yeah, the U.S. 17 billion in foreign profit. The company, as a result, reports paying an effective tax rate of 11.5%.
So if you just said they paid no taxes,
right,
they have an effective tax rate of 11.5%.
Yeah, well below the U.S. tax rate of 21%, largely because of its international operations.
Sure, but
where are those operations?
There's something wrong with analysis, and I'm not saying he's wrong. He's got a perspective, and that's okay.
Yeah. Where are the operations in the usual suspects jurisdictions with Ireland, Switzerland, Belgium, Puerto Rico, uh,
Sure.
China for the APIs. A
Yeah.
large so a large and profitable U.S. company that gets the majority of its revenue in the U.S. reports earning all of its income abroad
But how
and
do you earn
paying.
all the income abroad? If the income's made in the U.S. Now,
That's
now
what
there's
it
an
says. It's
argument
playing a shell game. Like that's what it reports: earning all its income abroad and paying an 11.5% overall tax rate.
but
And
that's not
guess
what tax
what?
is.
It doesn't seem to be paying any of that tax in the U.S. To get tax actually paid, some current plus the negative deferred tax, the full total is being paid abroad. Best as I can tell, this is hiding in plain sight, straight from the company's 10K, and
So,
it's actually typical of big U.S. pharma companies.
so let's explore that just for a second. And
Mhm.
I'm not excusing any of this, but it's all perspective. And I'm going. Let's take, for example, do you know where most drugs are made? Like most drugs in manufacturing for the
Like
U.S.
designed or manufactured.
Manufactured.
India,
No, Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico, okay.
And the reason is it's a U.S. territory that has incredible tax advantages. And the reason it has incredible tax advantages is it says things like, let me see if I can literally pull up. I don't know them off the top of my head, but you can look them up. But essentially, it is incredibly advantageous. You pay very, very little in taxes. And that was set up by the US government because they want investment in Puerto Rico. So you can now go, we made this policy, you follow this policy, we don't like the results of the policy. Okay, say you don't want that policy anymore. We'll do the manufacturing somewhere else. No, but you want the manufacturing to happen in Puerto Rico because what we're saying is the impact of that you may not pay it in income tax, but you may land up paying it in employer taxes, and you might land up making an entire island better for it.
Or you might be like increasing employment here,
Exactly.
and they're getting
Exactly
paid
right.
the W-2 taxes and all that.
Exactly right. So employment taxes. So yeah,
Right. There's always nuance. The truth's always in the nuance. It's not in the.
and that's my point. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm saying it's a perspective each time.
But on the macro scale of his thesis,
Yeah.
he's got valid points and valid
What is his
rationale.
valid point? What is his? I don't know what his valid
That
point is. Just
we've basically, as a country, we've become too dependent on outsourcing overseas, especially for our like biotech sector and pharma sector. Pharma sector, he says, is already gone, but biotech, he says, is next, and that's the last thing we have to innovate. We joke a lot about Merck hasn't innovated in 20 years. What do? They actually signed a deal with a. They actually Merck. This is perfect timing. They signed like a big deal with a Chinese GLP. Like
Chinese
Merck.
CDMO.
No. Merck just got the rights to a partnership with a
Oh,
Chinese designed GLP.
oh, I didn't know that. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's like just came out like 2 days ago. I remember reading that. They don't actually innovate themselves.
but no big pharma does anymore. There's no reason. They're what they're really.
Exactly. They depend on the small biotech industry to
But they
do it.
also depend on the. Let's assume you're right.
Yeah.
I generally concede that. Sure. What's your
Yeah.
point though?
The point is, it's in their favor. Merck, J&J, whatever. I don't think Lilly does this. I actually studied
I'm
Lilly a
sure
bit.
most of them do. I'd be surprised if most of them do.
Lilly's the only one I own shares in. Big
Sure.
Pharma,
Okay.
personally. So
Okay.
I know them better than most.
Sure.
They invest, they incubate, they have incubators all over the US. They have San Diego, Boston. I mean,
Sure.
they really nurture the biotech ecosystem.
Sure.
I'm working on some studies with Lilly affiliated, like, seedlings.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do overseas too, but I feel they're more responsible than the some of the others. Like there's Merck, who do no incubation in the U.S. It's all over, all China, and that's
So
because of these McKinsey analysts who say, you know what, it's like better, it's cheaper to do it over there and just bring it here later. But they're giving away the infrastructure. They're giving away, like, by doing that. The author's argument is it's in the long run affecting American national security interests.
yes, it's always a give and take, right? Let's be clear. The price of um, the price of innovation and or of cost is security. Which one do you want? For example, we put all of our investments, for example, in Puerto Rico. That was great. That was amazing. We brought it all back to the U.S. and then there was a flood and destroyed all of it at the same time.
Yeah.
Drug shortages across the country. So what do we want? We keep wanting different things
Well,
depending
who
on
is we? Because we are a democracy and we don't
exactly
agree on the most fundamental things. So,
right. Um,
that's maybe that's the issue with democracies in a way.
right. You talk about incubation. You talked about how Lilly.
But I guess when does it become the corporate responsibility? Because it's like not everything should be up. Like governments regulations are in place to keep people safe, right?
Sure.
N-
No, not necessarily. I don't agree with that statement. Government regulations serve a bunch of different goals.
But for
Safety
the
is one.
most part, it's to keep the populace safe. Like that's priority number one. Keep us safe from foreign invaders and from
That's your Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But sure,
sure,
I'll go with that
sure,
for a second. Okay, go with
sure.
that for a second.
The corporate level, there's something called corporate responsibility, which they all
CSR.
espouse. They
Sure.
all espouse DE&I. When the month of June comes, all their logos turn purple or whatever, rainbow,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Sure. That's
But
fine.
then what? Show me your actions. Like, what is you
Sure.
doing? You're going
Sure.
overseas, so your corporate responsibility is only to on the superficial level. On the fundamental level, it's all about profits. Because if you really had a corporate responsibility, you would care about the U.S. worker. You would care about
That's not what corporate
employment in your.
responsibility means. Corporate responsibility means
Well,
here.
that's where we differ. Because what is your definition? Like we should.
Well, they're telling you what the definition is. They're literally
Yeah,
telling you in their corporate responsibilities that these are our principles that we follow. You pointed out DNI. I
man.
don't
Let me look up Merck. Hold on. Let me.
sure. Pull
Now
up,
Merck's gonna hate me already. Let me look up Eli Lilly because I love them.
sure, pull up Lilly. And my point is, their number one responsibility as a company is to maximize profits for shareholders. Shareholders that are not just the billionaires, but it's every mom and pop store who's invested in their 401k. It's every person in a union who's invested in their pension fund. All of them also are reflected in the same corporate responsibility.
All right, let's find this. Where would we find this? About Lilly? Where would we even find this?
Just type in corporate responsibility. Here, I'll pull it up for you. Just
This is arguably the best pharma company, in my opinion. Corporate responsibility,
corporate
like the
social
best
responsibility.
large U.S. pharma.
Eli Lilly.
Racial justice.
Here.
Nah, it doesn't. Okay, you show me.
I literally had them here.
Yeah, I had it on mine. Hold on, let me put it on mine. Well, you can't find it. It's not so easy to find.
Yeah, maybe there's a reason for that. Civility. Did you have it up? I saw that. That wasn't what I considered. It's usually like a document.
Well, just the fact that we can't find it, and this is the best one. Like, I'll go to Merck.
Yeah.
Maybe it's easier to find there. Point is, it's about profits, which is fine. That's the system we've designed. But okay, so company, who we are, culture and values. Okay,
There you go. There you go.
Merck. Kudos to Merck. They put it easier to find. We operate responsibly every day to enable a safe, sustainable, and healthy future for people and communities everywhere.
So it's not U.S. centric,
So it's everywhere. Yeah, they've changed it. The
but you
okay,
can look up any of them.
right. So I guess the argument is, should U.S. pharma?
But they're
I
not
know they're.
operating. They
I
want to
know.
sell globally as well.
I know they're multinational. Yeah, I mean, this is. I feel like maybe the U.S. ones are the only ones that don't worry about the U.S. first.
Look up Novo Nordisk. Just pull it up just for argument's sake. Then
Novo Nordisk. Let's see. Uh, about us. Let's see who we are, what we do, who we are.
yeah,
I mean,
pull
it's
up
got to
what
be
we
in
are.
one of these.
Yeah.
We turn ideas. Wait, it went away. Hold on. See our mission to defeat obesity. No. I mean, I guess any of these platitudes would work.
Yeah. Doesn't matter.
Okay, see our mission to defeat obesity. Over
You're not
988
saying
million people live with obesity. A three. So it's World Obesity Atlas. Yeah. So it's world. It's corporate.
It's always, yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, then I don't know. Biotech. I mean, maybe there's a reason. Maybe that's the price to pay for living in the U.S. is paying more for everything. Is basically what you're saying. Like, just deal
Or
with it.
being part of a global industry. Being part of the world is being part of the world. We can't pick and
But
choose the.
if this happened in another country, wouldn't they demand as well? Like,
No,
why are we paying 1,000 for a drug?
I'm trying to think of a situation.
I go to Mexico frequently,
Yeah.
and in Mexico, the peso to dollar is like
To
20 to
whom,
1.
to whom much is given, much is expected.
So then that's a subsidy argument that the who is most privileged should foot the bill for the rest.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at that, look at power consumption, U.S. versus the rest of the world. Look at
Power consumption, U.S. versus world.
yeah.
In 22, U.S. total primary energy consumption was about 95 quadrillion BTUs,
Compared to.
equal to about 16% of total world primary energy consumption. 16%.
Okay, and what was it in say, and how much was China?
China, let's see.
We expect to be higher. But keep going.
If they share that data, no?
Right.
China consumes by far the most electricity of any country in the world,
Mhm.
with more than 8,000 terawatt hours equivalent consumed in 2023.
But we don't have a percentage. What was the U.S.
The
percentage?
U.S. ranks second with 4,000, so
Right.
half. India followed, but by a wide margin.
Okay, so the point I'm making is that the U.S. consumes a lot. Now, China. The reason I'm willing to subsidize China here is because in the end, China is making the product that takes energy. We use our energy to consume. Ashley's like, this has been a work.
Yeah.
uh, we unlike China, which is manufacturing the products, which we had agreed to, the US is consuming the products. And that's how much energy we take to consume, unlike the rest of the world. To whom much is given, much is expected.
So the argument to this article that we read is just that's how it is. There's no better option for Americans.
No, of course there is. Of
Your
course there
jobs
is.
will be outsourced.
No, the solution is have policy and be willing to live with the consequences of the policy. Every policy we have, there's no free lunch.
What do you think the new regime?
So I'll tell you, I have a solution for drug prices. I'll tell you this right now that has minimal consequences.
Yeah, yeah.
So the solution would be very simply this, because I simply can't go after it. I'll give you two different solutions. The first one is,
And then I want your take on what the new regime would think about all this.
okay, and I don't think the new regime will take me up on it. They'll ignore all of it, and I don't blame them either. It's some jackpot, some crackpot coming up with ideas. So the first solution would be, in the end, the cost of bringing a drug to market is billions of dollars. I think it lands up being, if you take 4 billion, that was the last number I heard. You divide that by 20 years. Can you divide 4 billion? Do you have a calculator in front of you?
I have my find on my Mac. Hold on.
Yeah. Do 4 billion, divide that by 365, and then divide that by 20. That's the amount of money a
4
typical
billion.
Drug, yep.
4. I mean, this is like you do these calculations regularly, right? With the Kulkarni law firm.
6 billion last time I checked.
You're used to putting this many zeros. All right, 4 billion.
Divide that by 365. That's the number of days in a year.
That is 10,958,000.
And then divide that by 12.
913,000.
Okay, so $913,000. So every single day, you have to walk into a casino, put down $913,000, and then walk out without knowing the answer. Tomorrow you come in again, do exactly that. And do that every year for the next 20 years. That's what we're asking pharmaceutical companies to do.
Including weekends and holidays.
Including weekends and holidays. That's what we're expecting. You're telling them you'll make a profit.
You brought this up on a pod like 6 years ago or so, and the number was lower.
Right.
but the same principle
Same
applied.
principle. My point being, if that's what we're expecting drug companies to do, it's unfair to say don't expect them to make a profit. What is a reasonable profit is a fair question to ask. But most people would argue if that's what you're expecting, you need to be able to make a pretty good profit for that. Let's now assume for a second we reduce the risk. So you come in there and you bet every single time. I'm going to make sure that you walk out with something. I'm going to comp something for you. You will get all of your you'll get your food covered, you will get your lodging covered, and you will get you'll still walk away with, I'm making up numbers here. No harm, no foul. You don't owe the casino any money. So if the government's going to come in and put in grants and say any money you've invested into this, you walk away cash free. So the upside is yours, the downside is ours. If that's what we come in and say, at that point, you can very easily, as the government, go, okay, in exchange for us defraying your risk, you can't increase drug costs because your risk is not there anymore.
Sure.
But no one's taking that up. No one's saying, I will de-risk your drug development.
You're on your own with that.
Correct.
So that every incentive is to go overseas where it's cheaper, faster, better.
Exactly. So,
but do you think just by the same context of what you described, because maybe that landscape's not changing, although maybe the regime will.
Sure.
Do you think RFK is like aware of this, or?
I don't think RFK is dumb. I think he has a perspective. I just think his perspective is wrong.
Because everyone focuses on the vaccines and stuff,
right?
And he's focusing on the health. I mean, that's like kind of the mainstream Joe Sixpack take.
Yeah.
But okay, put that aside. Innovation. This relates to the H-1B argument, which we can get into later, on another pod.
Sure.
I think it's in our best interest, economically, globally, and for matters of national security, to attract the best talent here, rather than having them go elsewhere. As you can see, China's already starting to compete with having some of the sharpest people there. That's what, otherwise this X guy wouldn't have written his article or his white paper. If we continue to do that, is that net term good for our country in the context of all of this stuff? Because that also displaces like American workers in a way, because you're bringing in a new supply of American workers that are market participants.
Yeah, and you and I had this conversation before we jumped on.
Right. So no matter what road you choose, competition for the American worker, and let's just say in our sector, is intense. And we haven't even really brought up AI at all.
No, we haven't brought up AI at all. We can have we technically did for the guy.
Which AI is like the global leveling playing field.
You remember there was this whole discussion on the world is flat. Like
Thomas Friedman. Yeah, Thomas Friedman.
Right. And we talked about how workers will be displaced in the US and they'll go to India. Well, now I think Indian workers have to compete against AI.
That's right.
And now the right now we're talking about a population decline. You and I had that discussion as well before we got on. There is a population decline as we speak. If that population decline exists, how do you make up for the workers who aren't working anymore? The China solution is we'll just use AI. They're investing heavily into AI and quantum computing to make up that difference, to increase efficiency. The US can do that as well, and the US will do that as well. The question is, who are the net losers in this? And what I worry about is countries like India, the Philippines, Indonesia, who are the beneficiaries of China losing this concentration of work. People will go, well, maybe AI can handle that as well, and that might result.
And it will. It will.
But I don't think that's 5 years away. I think that's.
But then the argument becomes, well, who conducts? Like if the AI is like Symphony, who conducts? Because that becomes more higher level work at that point.
Exactly right.
So that's the equivalent of today's innovation. So who does that? So it's always going to be a pricing game for the human talent.
But I think the value of that, it may end up being in the US because we're really good at automating things. I don't think most of the world is as good as us at automating things. China may be up there. So my point being that may come onshore. It just may be a
Yes.
longer pathway.
Yes. Well, I'm just trying to think of alternatives. So ultimately, like there's very little hope for the American worker.
No, I think the American
Like
worker.
in our sector, in our
I
sector.
think I think all workers will have to level up as AI becomes. You just pointed out someone has to run the symphony. I think we'll just see more symphonies happening.
Sure, more micro symphonies.
Correct.
With do these costs ever go down?
I think costs go down. I think costs go down. I don't know if sales prices go down because sales prices are, in some cases, as I pointed out to you,
Cost plus.
exactly. They're artificially made up sales prices.
Yeah, because it's cost plus, and that plus is where people get creative and abstract.
No, but you're assuming it's cost plus. I'm saying it's not even cost plus, like the PBM argument I just told you, where I'm
Right.
literally making up a number. So
They
you
can
can
always come up with another model similar to cost plus and say
sure,
this is
sure,
AI generated this one, but we prompted it to maximize profit.
sure, sure. That's
So
right.
it's an AI,
Right.
like the hospitals. We have algorithms. It's they all. If you go to any large medical center now, it's
Yeah.
evidence based. Okay, well, yeah. What did you prompt? How to reduce my liability? You didn't prompt how to maximize my health outcomes. You prompted,
In an AI, is that what you're saying?
yeah,
In
yeah,
this
like
scenario you're talking
any
about
large hospital system. So, like here in
right
Utah,
now, or
or
in the future?
no, right now,
Okay, got it. Okay, huh?
large uh,
Hospitals.
hospital systems. They're all
Sure.
using algorithms to basically dictate to their clinicians a framework of
No, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all.
yeah.
They might be saying here's for example a formulary, and here's what we're willing to
No,
do.
not for pricing, just for like I'm talking just health care decision making at this point at the for like the patient. So like I walk in there, I have like whatever risk factor, they're already putting me into data, right?
That's
And they
not how
spit out,
how hospitals are usually. A physician makes that decision on an individual basis.
but the physician has parameters within the algorithm.
But there's no algorithm. That's what I think you keep assuming there's an algorithm. The algorithm's coming from there are consortiums that basically build those algorithms, not a hospital level
And
decision.
then MBA type that enforce it or create the policy like, hey, we got to watch our metrics for if you see these risk factor because we don't want lawsuit, you got to go for this route.
Not typically. Not
It's
that
not
would,
mandatory, but they're
no.
encouraged to.
I mean, I've worked in hospitals, right? I've spent
Yeah,
decades in hospitals.
yeah.
If someone came up to me and said, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, and doctors probably get a lot more of this than I did as a pharmacist. But
We
if
get Dr. Joe. We get Dr. Joe on. Did you
I'd love to
subscribe
hear
by
his
the way?
perspective.
Did you
Was that?
subscribe to Dr. Joe?
I did. I did.
Okay, okay. Do you like it?
I haven't had his stuff pop up for me yet.
No, but
Uh,
like the one you saw, did you enjoy it? Or?
I enjoyed that one. I did enjoy that one. He's a good guy. He's a smart guy. It's fun to listening to it.
Super sharp, but he just came from a large health system. And he's like, the reason I'm at this small one with Dr. Smith, who's my PI, is because he doesn't dictate how we treat patients. Like they're basically handcuffed as to what their
So
options
I'd love
are.
to hear his perspective because my perspective, at least the way I work, and given it's been 8 years since I worked in a
Here's
hospital.
his perspective as we wrap up because this is taking like a long. This is like two pods in one.
Yeah.
Large system. You can do. You're a doctor. No one's telling you what to do.
Yeah.
But if you start deviating from this framework,
Yeah.
and the arbitrariness of it is debatable, but there's a framework.
Sure.
You deviate, everyone's metrics based.
Yeah.
You're a little bit outside more than the other. Someone's talking to you, an MBA,
Oh, sure. So
and
that'll
saying,
happen.
"Hey,
But
Doctor
that's
Joe."
different.
But that dictates, that reinforces how they behave one on one with the
Didn't you
patient.
just say that you wanted lower drug costs and lower healthcare costs? That MBA person is necessary to help reduce those costs.
And they're also necessary to prevent lawsuits from happening to the
Exactly
hospital.
right, which is again going to reduce costs. So
To
you pick
them,
one. Which
to
one?
them, to them, not to me. We don't get my drug from the hospital. I go to
You,
Sam's Club.
you go to Sam's Club and there's an MBA type who works in a pharmaceutical company who's having that same exact conversation.
Sure, but that affects me slightly less than going to my doctor, especially when I can't shop around and find non hospital system related physician that all follow these algorithms. Essentially, they're just AIs. I mean, 10 years from now, you don't need the human anymore. AI will
Well,
tell you this is what you're going to do.
actually, you already use systems like prompting, going, these are the recommended options. Would you like one of these?
Correct. Correct.
In fact, they're doing it in like recommending clinical
So
trials.
you're taking the art of medicine out in favor of evidence based, but
Have
they're
you
not
heard?
going by, huh?
Have you ever heard of nudging?
It sounds like what they did to Dr. Joe before he left.
No, not nudging is what Facebook used to do, and there's an entire industry on this. How do you keep people on the Facebook site? And you do that by
Fine.
nudging certain behavior.
Sure.
You optimize certain behavior, make
Yeah,
it
yeah.
easy for them to stay on.
Yeah.
In the same way, if you want patients to be part of a clinical trial, maybe when the patient comes in, they meet certain criteria, a little pop-up comes up and says, hey, your patient qualifies for this clinical trial. Do you think they'd be right for it? You're not saying choose them, but you are nudging the doctor saying, maybe I should have the conversation. And that's what nudging is. So my point is, you will always nudge behavior. And you should nudge behavior. I'm not sure why we shouldn't. If it can help reduce healthcare costs, I'm all for that. The question, however, is you're focusing, in my opinion, on the wrong end of things. And what I mean by that is you're focusing on costs because you're assuming that if we can drop drug costs, we can lower drugs like sales, the cost of sales, or cost of well, not cost of goods, but like the sales price.
Sure.
And I think that that's not necessarily true because you'll just have better margin, and companies will say, "I'll take the better margin and I'll make more profits."
Yeah, but I'm not sure, and this is going to get into a 3-hour conversation. I don't know if the incentive is there for health optimization as opposed to lowering liability and cost for the provider, which ultimately somehow is going to translate into lower cost for the person. And this is where RFK's premise comes in, is like we need to bring holistic health back to the
But there was never holistic health. No, he keeps saying that there was never such a thing. No one ever had holistic health.
I think it starts with food. My PI, you want to see my PI's email signature?
Sure, pull up the signature. But my point is a different one. My point is holistic health suggests that there was a period in history where we had all this evidence and we looked at a patient's overall well-being. And I wish there was, but none of that existed because we didn't have the data. We just made shit up and we said there was ether, and in the ether you have this mixture of 4 fluids.
Correct. Correct. That's the extreme. My position is
by the way, that was not the extreme. That was normal.
Norm, sure, but that's the extreme example in a 2025 world. But my experience, anecdotally, as a patient, especially with large health systems, the small ones, like this independent, which are dying out, God bless their souls, the ones that stick around and fight the good fight. It is a fight.
Sure.
They're willing to look outside the framework in order to find for you, Darshan Kulkarni, not a cohort of people that look like Darshan.
Yeah.
For Darshan Kulkarni, the most optimal.
So you're talking about personalization, is what you're asking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're working towards that. We've been talking about digital twins.
This is my PI signature, email signature.
You're feeding diseases. I mean, that sounds great as a platitude. I'm not disagreeing with him.
He puts that on every email.
I think that's great. And I let's be clear, I support it. But the fact is, I don't think we have enough data to tell us what actually works well and what doesn't. We have good anecdotal.
Well, we have enough data to show what doesn't work well.
Do we?
Sucralose, glucose.
Do we actually have that data?
Omega-6. There's data on it.
There's data.
It's not a lot because there's not the big pharma complex behind it, but there's data.
So if we're willing to just accept anecdotal evidence,
but they're peer reviewed. There's enough peer reviewed. It just doesn't match like the amounts of literature from private industry.
And I'm not saying don't follow it either, but I think we're saying let's take that data that is not adequately proven, apply it to healthcare, and say that overall we've just been ignoring all of this the whole time. This is
Right.
what's going to solve the
Right.
problem. I'm
But
saying
the current paradigm is, yeah, that doesn't matter because you can't, like, there's only
I
a
think
few
that's
peer
crap too.
reviewed journals. Let's just take this pill instead, or take this
Well,
shot.
that's
It's
crap too. Let's be clear, that's crap too.
better. Right.
I'm in favor of using more, as you said, a more comprehensive viewpoint, but recognize that there are limitations to that, and
Yeah.
and us pretending that that those limitations don't exist is where the problem is. It's like there was this utopian world in the past
Yeah.
that we moved
Yeah.
away from it. That world never existed.
And then it's your absolute risk as Darshan or as Dan versus this is what the statistics show, evidence-based medicine. It's
Yeah.
totally different because I'm not part of that statistic. I'm unique. Like, and if
Uh,
I'm informed enough to tell you
sure.
this is where those stats are don't apply to me, they don't want to hear that. And they, because lawsuits, like, they're afraid. They
No, but
rather just
that's the reason
you
why.
follow in line, don't fight back, and we won't get sued this way, and like it's in your best interest too. But it may not be.
Everything may not be. The percentage of you being, the likelihood of you being right is incredibly low.
Sure. And the overall percentage of them being correct is fine, but at the cost of it's not optimal. But you know what? Collectively, it's fine.
Okay, so I don't understand you've watched the movie Moneyball. You understand sports way better than I do.
Yeah, special baseball.
Exactly. So if that's true, um, you saw the entire, like, you're playing Moneyball at that point, and there's a reason
They
statistics.
are playing Moneyball, not me.
My point is,
That is a good analogy. It's a good analogy.
yeah.
It's a good
So
analogy. There are some players that transcend the
of course
statistics,
there
right?
are. Of course there are.
So, and those are in the equivalent argument in this would be the empowered patient. Remember that on Twitter? That
I
was
remember
like a
that
thing back in the day. Whatever happened to Eat Patient Dave?
He's still
Eat
there.
Patient
I saw something from him.
Eat Patient Dave was the shit.
He was. He is. I assume.
They were actually complaining back then about this very thing. I've done my homework. I know what's for me and what, like, you trying to put
And
me,
that
you
absolutely
being
true.
the,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's not optimal for everyone, but we've found a level where it's acceptable for most. And that's the issue I think RFK has, is that our standards are so low that those what's
We
best
should
for
drop them
most,
lower.
no, but what's best for most is also now mixed into, well, what's most profitable too for the pharma, and
But it's
like
not
all
possible.
that goes in. It is. I mean, we just read a whole thing on.
Yeah.
You can't disagree with all of it. You disagree with some of it, maybe
Oh,
his
sure,
points,
sure.
but,
No, I don't disagree with all of it. I just disagree with his perspective because I think he's creating a slant.
and they
That's
are
not,
the biggest lobbyists. Like, why is pharma the biggest lobbyist by
I
far?
think. So I think multiple reasons, and it depends on the
If
specific
there's
issue.
no money, why are they doing it then?
Sometimes you just want certainty of business.
Okay, but hold on. If they can afford to be the number one lobbyists
Yeah,
in
but you're
all the
not saying the
industry,
number one profit. The tech industry makes the most profits.
sure, but that's a 20-year thing. Pharma's been like a 100-year thing.
Yeah, but they've never been, as far as I know, the number one profit makers in the world. I don't think they ever have been, as far as I know.
Maybe before tech, I don't know.
I don't
They're
know.
the most consistent. They're the most consistent, and
People get sick all the time.
that's related to this
Okay.
algorithms. And
People are not going to get sick because of the algorithms. I mean, they're going to get sick at
I
nevertheless.
know, but RFK's greater point is that the
Okay.
algorithms, the incentives for them is not
So
necessarily to
what's the
improve
solution?
outcomes.
Let's rephrase this. What is the solution?
Well, he's saying to get back to watch what we eat, like the fundamentals. What do we
But
put
that's
in our
great.
body every day?
Anyways, let's do that. I don't think that's anyone's really arguing over that part.
Yeah. Well,
But
they are, because they're
no,
calling
I
him a
think
quack.
most people are arguing. What does it mean in the larger scheme of things? If you're just saying, you know what, eat
Like
better, I
additives,
agree with that.
additives, like even his thing with the vaccines. It's not the vaccine, it's the additives that he's have complaints about. It's not necessarily the actual active ingredient.
Yeah, but he's arguing that the additives have that effect, except they've literally studied the additives. They've literally studied that, which
Right.
is what you're saying. And they're
Right.
saying, no, it's fine.
That's his part that, like, personally I feel like goes too far, but many others don't.
Right. I don't
But
know many.
the other 90% of, like, he's talking about yes, the algorithms are built for the system, not necessarily for you. You are part of the system because you have no choice. But it's kind of skewed because of profits and
That's how
lobbying and all this
statistics
stuff.
work, though. That's always how statistics
Of
work.
course, but statistics are not supposed to be influenced by money.
Yes, they are. What do you? Why, I
Well,
don't
they are.
understand.
They definitely are. But like from an academic perspective, they're not supposed to
Okay,
be.
okay.
That's
Let's assume
separate.
you're right. Let's assume you're right for a
I would
second.
hope I'm right, or we got to go back to
The statistics
Greek
itself.
Greek virtues. Everything's philosophy, man. Everything
I
comes
love how
back
you
to
love Greek, love Greek philosophy. It's awesome.
of course.
Um,
I don't
but
know,
we
man. We
could
go
go
on
this on
forever
forever.
about this.
We
Hmm?
could keep going easily for hours more.
We're gonna have like 1,000 shorts from this. That's awesome. And
Uh,
for those that are still watching, which is like everyone on X, basically,
I don't know.
it's
How many
like
people in this?
57 people
Really?
on X. Yeah,
Oh wow.
you got to get back on there, man. It's okay now.
I'm on X, but I just don't
Oh,
use it.
okay. I use it the least to post, but I use it the most to consume.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad people on X are watching, and I'd love to hear what they say.
Well, listen, until next time, which might be next week.
Yeah.
Last time we thought I'd be a father by now, but it hasn't happened yet.
Well, it might be right after this message. You might be
Don't
getting it.
worry, we will enter the belly of the beast of the hospital system.
Let us know how that goes.
Yeah, where
We're
we
rooting
are
for you.
just another
Number.
cog in the algorithm. You fall into this, and then I fight back. Listen, listen. What's the absolute risk? Okay,
Right.
well, no. You don't know because you didn't even look. You didn't even ask.
Well, you
That's
should.
the pro. They don't. They stop asking, Darshan. They don't care. They
What
look
is the
at data.
absolute?
They look
But
at data, but not just your data, your cohort's data. But they don't ask you, well, why? Oh, well, no, that kind of does change things. Yeah. Okay. They don't ask. They don't care. That's the problem. That's the problem. They don't care. And that's the problem when we couldn't find the corporate responsibilities. It took us 20 minutes to find this.
we're gonna have.
I'm not here to preach, man.
I'm enjoying this conversation, and I can't wait to do it again next week. Unless you're a dad at that point.
I mean, I'll still do it, and I'll probably be even
Really?
more preachy.
No. My thing is, yeah, can we
With the
all agree that Dan should
baby
take a
in the
week
lap,
off? Dan should take a
patron,
week off if he's a dad.
like Pete Buttigieg. Well, he took like 2 months, no?
I have no freaking idea.
Took paternity leave.
Did he?
They made fun of it on SNL, I believe.
I think you know what. You're a human being. You should be able. You should have some time to connect
Thank
with your.
you. I probably will. I probably
Good,
will.
good. I want that for you. We're gonna
Listen,
talk soon.
guys, like, go follow Darshan, subscribe, go get an X account, comment, go watch more of our videos, and share. And go think about some of this stuff. Bye bye.
Bye bye.